Hello beautiful people, Carl here from Games, Brains and Headbanging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. Although you should know that by now. Take two. God damn it, I was on a flow about 7-8 minutes into the original video and my camera just crashed. That is the first time I think I've ever seen it happen. It came up and said it was trying to recover the data, but it didn't in the end, so I've had to start this video again. It's really frustrating. It kind of kills your motivation to do it, but I'm going to have a second go at this. Not that I had a script the first time, I was just kind of on a roll, which kind of sucks, but it's the first time that happens. Camera is a little old, it's a good few years old, it's still quite a quality camera, it still does, good imagery and still works and it's easy to use and things like that, but I am probably due to invest in a new system. It's just hard because the only real use this camera gets is at home like this, and that could really, I probably don't need a high budget camera for that. And obviously when I take it to sort of festivals and things like that, outside of that I'm using my Mac and Zoom, and for all the interviews I do like that. So it's probably not, like, I don't need to invest too much in it. It just needs to be a high quality camera to a degree for more for that. And it's a personal thing. If I'm going to do interviews in the field and I'm going to use a camera, say at Bloodstock or other festivals, I kind of want it to look its best. It's same with like the sound system and stuff like that. But yeah, it's the first time that's happened. Fingers crossed it doesn't again, because that would suck. Not the thought of having to do this a third bloody time. What was I talking about? Well, first things first, I should report that I'm not particularly well at the moment. I am suffering from the dreaded cold. It feels pretty shitty at the moment, and this is taking a little bit of effort, but I really wanted to make sure I do it. I really wanted to come on here and talk. There may be a few more cuts as I have to stop to sneeze and blow my nose and all that nonsense, but right now I've taken a load of drugs. I'm drinking my favourite of the green teas. This is Dragonfly tea, Moroccan mint, brisk gunpowder green tea with naturally sweet spearmint. I love this. It's probably my favourite one. I really enjoy how it tastes. It's really smooth. It's really nice. Like some of them I drink, like it'll start off quite nice, but as it gets cooler near the bottom, it kind of gets a little cloying, or it's not that nice, or it's a little bit thicker and stuff like that. This one is nice all the way through. Easily my favourite. It's definitely one that I'm sticking to drinking. But these Dragonfly teas, there are several they do. I like most of them, if not all of them, but this is just up there as my favourite. The experiment, the sort of green tea, the tea experiment, the herbal tea experiment, I think is going well. I'm drinking a whole lot less coffee. I really, really am. On a sort of standard day, maybe when I'm off working at home and coffee is readily available, I have to go in there and use a Tassimo. That's what I use with the discs. I would maybe say if I was up at 10 o'clock in the morning and I was up until about, 11, 12, 1, that kind of time, which is a normal standard long day for me if I'm at home. You're talking about me having a cup of coffee every hour, every 2 hours at a push, sometimes several in that time period depending on what I'm doing. And a lot of the time I didn't even really want it, I just want a hot drink. So I like having a hot drink there, I like being able to drink, I like reaching for all of these sort of things. I've always had that habit. It's like a habit that was formed with vaping before I gave that up and stuff like that. What I'm drinking, like a quarter of that now, if not less. Like at the moment, like the days I'm kind of having 2 or 3. Like yesterday I had 3. And it was 2 in the morning, one after the other, and then 1 later on. And at the moment, as of today, I've had 2 as well. 2 again in the morning, and 1 I may have later on if I decide to. But right now, I'm happy enough drinking these. That is a huge cut down. It's really, really good. And obviously, the way I'm feeling at the moment, coffee doesn't exactly hit the sides. I just want something hot, and I've got something here, and it tastes nice, and it goes down nice. I've been wondering where the improvements might be found. Like, have I noticed any improvements in areas of my life? Have I noticed I've got more energy, less of a crash, and all that sort of stuff? Kind of. But I don't know my body well enough, I think, to actually fully understand that side of things. And because of my shift work and the environment and other things I do, it's often hard to pinpoint specific things. That particularly applies to sleep. There are areas I think's improved. I do think that. But it's also hard to fully judge because of differing factors. As I said, shift work affects my sleep in different ways. Where I live, the environment, all of that can affect it in different ways. Some of it's obvious. If I'm a night and I'm going to sleep during the day, I know my sleep's going to be crap all week, up and down and all over the place. I know I'm never going to feel fully rested. That's expected. It's a given. I've done well to mitigate a lot of that, as I've talked about previously, but it's not unexpected. The same if I'm out drinking the night before. Last time I spoke, obviously, it was going out for Brendan's birthday drinks. That's been and gone that night, and into the next day I slept like absolute crap because I was severely dehydrated. We came home, I drunk a hell of a lot, Came home, hungry, ate, we made fish finger sandwiches, and then I went to sleep. So obviously during the night, dehydrated as hell. Yeah, still 40 and still not the smartest thing I always do. We often try to make sure we don't eat when we come home. We try to set that rule. But man, when you've been drinking and you've had loads of drink and you're hungry, you get in and you're hungry, or you're on your way home and hungry, everything, you just give in to yourself very, very easily. Oh, I'll have that kebab. I'll have that pizza. I'll have that fish finger sandwich. So what I'm saying is that's really obvious. I could easily identify crap sleep because of that. But outside of that, it could be the most minor thing. I've said before, I track my sleep with a Fitbit, sort of see and get a rough idea about mainly how long I'm sleeping, the scoring, and what are some of the factors that it looks like may have affected it. And sometimes it's interesting because obviously I live in a block of flats, and in the middle of the night it's going to be very, very quiet, enough so that like noises are being picked up elsewhere. Now, I'll look and see like, 4 in the morning or 3, 4 in the morning, there's a point where I get broken out of REM sleep / deep sleep, whatever. And I wonder what that was. Was it one of those buses going up past super slowly and grinding its engine and it just knocked me out of it? Was it somebody leaving a block of flats and slamming our front door? We have a front door to our block, obviously. It's quite far from where our bedroom is and where I'm sitting right now, and it's on a lower floor. But it's not the best well-designed door, enough so that we have notes up saying please don't slam it and try and keep it quiet, and people still ignore it because people are people. If you let it slam, you'll hear it. It's that kind of thing. I wonder if that's what it is. It's hard to identify. I don't really know. I always wonder. I'm so used to noise around, what it would be like to sort of live in a quiet country. We've had environments like that, and it's not really affected. In fact, where we used to live pre this current place was a lot quieter. A lot of our rooms actually looked out over a park, and it was very, very quiet at night, of course. Anyway, cats wandering around. Cousins just walk past looking at me to sort of say, bro, what you doing? They always do this, as I said before, but this is particularly egregious because there was a little bit of a salmon issue before. I had a salmon bagel before I did these videos. Feeling a little hungry, so I had a salmon bagel. And the two cats, Mox and Cathausen. Moxley does not like salmon. He's a little bit fussy about certain foods like that. But you'd think catfish, all that kind of thing, he'd like a bit of fresh salmon. And it literally is fresh salmon. But no, don't want to know. Don't want to know. He'll sniff it, like excitedly, and then just walk away, and you kind of offer him again, he'll turn his head away. He doesn't want it. Cathausen though, all over it, absolutely loves a bit of salmon, loves a bit of everything really. That cat, he would have everything if he could. So I gave him a little bit, and obviously that starts the whole I want an all now kind of thing. Follow me room to room to room. Yes, I'm talking about you. But Mox goes through this phase of just being like, well, I don't want salmon, bro, but like, can you give me something else to make up for it? Like that kind of thing. And it's like, that's not how it works. But because of that now, they're both misbehaving and playing with balls out in the hallway, even though they're normally asleep at this time. They're just sort of like, I give Cathausen some energy, and Mox is now sulking about it because he didn't get anything, basically, because he doesn't like salmon. Bloody cats. Do love them, but they are irritating creatures when it comes to doing videos. It's fine for a video like this because I'm not really doing any specific thing. So yeah, if they do disrupt it in ways, who cares? Speaking of disruption though, right? How often do you doom scroll? How often do you find yourself sort of, like becoming dead-eyed almost to a certain degree and just sort of staring at the screen as you flick through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever your choice of social media platform is? How often do you do it? I do it probably the same amount as most people, I think. I'll sit there and I'll get bogged down in a ton of reels on Facebook. The algorithm over there is still pretty decent. It's still got some weird stuff, and sometimes I'll get recommended things or it'll show me things that I don't even know how I got there. But for the most part, I get a lot of comedians, I get a lot of film clips, things that I enjoy actually watching as reels, and sometimes I use as a tool to kind of get me interested in certain things. That happens with films. Hey! Oh my god. Moxley called Cathausen and he came bursting off from over there, literally sailed over the cat. You can probably hear him now. Sailed over the couch. I should lock them out, but we'll carry on. But yeah, so what I was saying, right? So I was talking about social media, Facebook. The algorithm will get a bit weird, but I use it to sometimes it'll show me a film clip, and I watch the clip and I think, oh, I've never seen this film, I'm particularly interested, but this clip gets my interest. That's what got me interested in watching Hidden Figures, which is like a historical film, drama historical film, and I like those type of films about a specific group of women who worked in NASA in a certain period, racism, women working in the men's industry, all this stuff about sending an astronaut into space. It was quite interesting, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, like as a movie as well. That's where I think the algorithm is good, and that's where it does benefit me. But every so often, I will have a little Twitter run. I still will have a Twitter run, even though I find it really, really hard to find anything of interest over there, mainly because obviously the algorithm is broken. Listen, you can like, dislike, whatever, have whatever feeling you want on Musk. I'm not going to get into mine. But we know he broke the algorithm, and we know why he did it, and you could be lying to yourself if you think for a second it's not busted over there. I get the most random shit now that I've never have no interest. I will block. I will get US senators. I interact with none of this, but I'm getting US senator stuff. Not reshares, not retweets from people I follow. Just there on my feed. You know, I had Trump. I get all this American stuff that I have no interest, politics at all in. And it's not about being informed. I am not getting informed by Twitter. That's the problem. If it was I can learn some news items. It used to feel like I could get informed. I'd read like an opinion and then want to investigate further now. But now it's just so egregiously like bull. It's all just constant lies. And from all sides that I just can't deal with that side of things. So I just don't. But I sometimes will scroll through the reels and sort of see what's going on there. But even that is pretty broken. And like I said, it's rare. But early on, I don't know why I did it. But I clicked on it and I was scrolling through some videos. And two things in a row came up. And I'm telling you, like, what the hell? And it was like, it's where I stopped. I immediately stopped and then basically prepared for this, right? It just made me laugh how insane that platform is. And I guess how insane all social media is now. Or just how insane people are. The first one was a video, and I watched about 5 seconds of it before I quickly realised what it was and moved on. Because I always get worried that if I stay in a video too long or I interact with it anyway, of course I'm telling the algorithm that I want to see more of this stuff, and I really bloody don't. But it was a conspiracy theory about self-checkouts. Now, I'd almost say it was parody, except Joe Rogan's face appeared. And I was like, well, that's where I got to move on. And I'm going to presume the cameras and all that kind of thing. Now, if you're sitting and nodding going, yeah, those self-checkouts, yeah, man, they get us, honestly, I don't know what to say to you. Crack on, man. It's the whole, they got my data and all that kind of thing, as if, like, it isn't out there and hasn't been out there for all the other things and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of stuff like that. Obviously, I don't want people to lose their jobs, but these major corporations are going to do it anyway. So anything that will make my life a little bit easier, I might as well enjoy, right? I would more than happily have more people employed at Tesco's, but simply put, Tesco's aren't going to frickin' employ them. It is as simple as that, because they need to make all the money all the bloody time. Never forget that. They're in it for themselves. The second one, I think I got 3 seconds in, and I don't know what it was, I don't know who it was, but they literally started with, hey, why don't black people lease the N-word for major events? Boom, done, good night. What the fuck, man? Now that I'm going to presume was a joke, right? But like, come on, man. What is this nonsense? The internet is insane. People are insane. Speaking of insane now, way segues. This is how I roll, man. Oh, I'm in a lot of drugs at the moment. Not like those kind of drugs, you know what I mean? Like Lemsip drugs and fucking paracetamol. Oh, so hardcore. But yeah, insanity. Black Sabbath's final show. You knew I was going to talk about this. It's probably the major event of the week. It's probably the thing that's dominated the metal, rock and metal press to a degree, outside of what else? Grammys, I suppose. That happened last week. Because actually the video... Actually, no, you know what? Before I get into that, I forgot, because it was a week ago, Mushful Radio, the award thing, didn't win it. It was Matt. Matt won it, and congratulations to him. And it was such a pleasure to be part of that. It was so cool. So yeah, congratulations to George as well for being nominated. It would have been awesome to be there. Obviously, he wasn't able to be there. And congratulations to everyone who won an award there. And thank you, Mushful Radio, for not just putting it on, but honouring these people and put my name forward for a nomination. It is still very much appreciated. And obviously, the Grammys happened. A big award show, just a tad. Gojira, obviously, winning an award for that incredible Olympic song. So fucking cool, isn't it? Still. But I suppose the major takeaway from that, and I saw it, And fucking hell. Obviously, it's Courtney of Spirit Box being confused with Poppy and handling it in a quite an amusing way, where she just decided to play like Poppy, but in a very dour, straight talking way. That interviewer, I don't want to throw shade at anybody who's doing a difficult job, and they're out there and they probably haven't been given much of a brief, and there's all these people coming along and stuff like that. But you gotta know what Poppy looks right like. All right, let's say you're not that in the rock and metal alternative world, right, to understand and know what Courtney LaPlante looks like. I get that. But, like, Poppy, for example, is up as a nominee alongside Knock Loose. Did you even look at a picture of her beforehand? Like, honestly, I'll imagine, I haven't looked into it anymore, but I imagine she's very embarrassed and hopefully has sent an apology or reached out and apologised and stuff like that to Courtney, because, this is just humiliating for everybody, really, isn't it? And it wouldn't for Courtney to handling it in such a way. She could have ignored the reporter or just simply said, I'm not Poppy, I'm really embarrassed the person right there and then. But obviously not like it is an embarrassing full stop. But yeah, that's the major takeaway. And I know a lot of people have a lot of love for Courtney LaPlante, and rightfully so. I'm not really on the Spirit Box train. I've struggled to understand the hype, but then I get that with some other bands, Sleep Token, for example. I don't quite get what everybody else is, but I love that you do. I love that you do. I love that people are so passionate about these bands, as long as they keep it respectful and decent and stuff like that. I'm passionate about many bands, of course, so I would certainly not want to knock your passion. But I've never been quite in the Spirit Box train. I've enjoyed a lot of what Spirit Box does. But the new track, it's a banger. I think it's great. That heavier side of Spirit Box is right up my street. I really enjoy that. I think it's weird in places as well. Sometimes that doesn't quite work, so it's not like an outstanding track, but I do really like it, and it's one of those where it's like, yeah, I get this track and I'm into it. But yeah, that was the Grammys. That was the other major news bit, but coming all the way back, segues, eh? Not segues, sorry, detours. What a mess that was. Back to the Sabbath show. Of course, this was this insane final Black Sabbath show, which is going to obviously feature all the original members, was announced, and the poster immediately made you go, that's fake. Come on, you didn't do exactly the same as I did. I saw it and went, well, that's fake. It looks like one of those fucking lineup posters you do when you were like 15 for a festival and be like, oh, God, this would be my dream download lineup and stuff like that. I used to do that stuff. It looks like that. And then you look at it a bit properly and it all kind of makes sense. It's, a tribute show more than anything else. So you've got obviously a ton of big bands. From Metallica, Alice in Chains to Gojira. It is a huge Pantera, all this huge bands coming over to do this show at Villa. It's Villa Park, isn't it? In Birmingham, which is that Aston Villa? Is that, wait, pause. Back. Shows what I know about football. Of course it's Aston Villa's ground, but I had a moment there I was like, wait, is it just coincidence? And where is Aston Villa? At that moment, that doesn't sound like I'm starting to think, is that a specific place up north that I don't know? I know Birmingham in it, but I know there's also team, like Birmingham teams. Birmingham Rovers, is it? No, it's Bristol Rovers. Oh my God. I don't know football anymore. I used to know a lot more about football than I do now, because I don't follow in the slightest. Birmingham Wanderers. No, that's Bolton Wanderers, isn't it? Oh my God, what is Birmingham's team? Is it Aston Villa? Oh, I really don't know. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, it's at Villa Park, which is Aston Villa's football ground. So a fairly large, substantial stadium. I think maybe around, I saw about 50,000 or just under 50,000 capacity. So yeah, it looked fake, and you've got all these huge bands coming over, and then you had this long list of guests, and that's why I realised, oh, okay, this is more like a tribute show. So obviously I was aware that Ozzy is not well, to be living a bit under a bit of rock to know that. I perhaps didn't quite know how unwell he was until recently, which kind of makes sense why it's happening this year, and it's happening in a few months, because it's really morbid to talk about, it's really depressing to sort of say and all that, but it appears time is a factor here, and it's going to be a very sad day when we lose Ozzy Osbourne, of course. I asked my wife yesterday when I was sort of reading up about obviously his disease and how far it's progressed, just to give you what information I know. My understanding is that he can no longer walk, but apparently he can still sing and stuff like that. I asked my wife, what was the first ever Ozzy Osbourne song you heard? Because obviously we're of a certain age, so I didn't grow up listening to Ozzy Osbourne stuff. But obviously when I hit my sort of early teens, late sort of pre-teen stages, I was finding music there. For me, it was Perry Mason, and it was on a Kerrang or a Metal Hammer, you know, the magazines, CDs. They used to give those CDs away, which would have compilations and stuff like that. And I heard Perry Mason there. I didn't have a fucking clue who Perry Mason was and why the hell Ozzy Osbourne of all people was singing about him. But yeah, I thought the track was banger. And I've always been a fan. Not a huge fan. Not a huge fan. I'm talking Ozzy specifically here. You know, Sabbath's a different story. But Ozzy specifically, I've never been a huge fan. I've dipped in and out and liked stuff here and there. Other times I've really not liked it. And I'd struggle to take one whole album of great stuff. You know, there are albums with stronger stuff overall, but one whole album of like, oh, this is great music, not likely. Sabbath's a different story. I'm a huge fan of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Sabbath in particular as well. I appreciate and enjoy Dio and a couple of the others as well. But now I'm all about Ozzy Sabbath's great fucking music. And yeah, the show, when it became like reality, it was like, oh, this is a real freaking thing. It was quite a bit of a whoa, what to say about that, really. My initial feeling was like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. But I did it with all gigs. You know, I did it with every single gig. And then I sort of sat back and thought about it and was like, well, this is going to cost stupid money. I know this is the biggest topic of conversation. It's going to be about cost. Now, there's been some arguments about it being a charity show in the sense that all proceeds are going to go to charity and that will apparently somehow negate the cost. I don't think that's the case at all. Simply put, the amount of sponsors involved, which will obviously, you know, negate some of the costs, but all the bands involved, and even if they're, you know, doing the most baseline fee or some are doing it for free, this all stuff has to be paid for here. This is going to be very expensive, and I think that sucks, but I also understand why it's very expensive. Last time we spoke, 9 Inch Nails tickets were about to go on sale. They're going to be doing the O2. They went on sale and they were over £100. It's as simple as that. These arena shows, these stadium shows, they've reached a point of unaffordability for many and questionable affordability for others. If you're capable of just dropping hundreds and hundreds of pounds, you know, good on you, but many people aren't. And I'm always reminded of how much that freaking sucks. And, you know, I'm going to be honest. The whole point of these videos was to be honest as well. I can afford this, based off rough guides and stuff like that. I am one of those people. I am lucky enough that I probably could sink the money in, the travel money to get up there, the hotel money and all of that stuff. I probably could do it. I probably could. I wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be throwaway money. It'd go on a credit card. So I mean, so like, and then I'd be paying it off a bit over a longer period of time. It's not disposable funds, but I could do it. But it doesn't sit well with me. And this has been a consistent problem for many years. Well, not a problem because we actually, you know, we have a solution to it on a personal level. But, you know, I know FOMO is a major part of this and it will affect me as well. Particularly, you know, I'll know people out go and people who are close to it, who live in Birmingham, so it's easy for them to get there. And when it comes to it and seeing them there and having a great time, I will get that jealousy. I really will. But I hope I'll still remember I made the right decision. Tickets aren't even sale, and I'm talking about simply the fact that I won't be going. I won't even be trying to get tickets. I will look to see how many tickets what tickets I like, but I'm envisioning an absolute nightmare. For me, this is the rock and metal version of Oasis, basically, in regards to how it's going to be sold, which is Ticketmaster, no doubt. It's Live Nation show, isn't it? So it's going to be Ticketmaster, which means a certain amount's going to be creamed off and put on secondary sites immediately. Dynamic pricing, is that going to come into effect? We know how Ticketmaster loves that shit. That's going to cost people even more. And of course, touts. I think this gig is going to be touted to high heaven by Ticketmaster themselves to a degree. So I'm not going to get involved for that. So good luck to you if you are. But it kind of brings me back to a thing I've talked about before. Maybe in like the first episode, or not that there's been loads, but I certainly feel like I've talked about it before. But I'm going to bring it back up, and it's about that high-priced gig thing that many years ago, and it was actually, I remembered when, it was Guns N' Roses doing their stadium shows. I think they were doing the London Stadium in London, which was obviously the old Olympic Stadium, where West Ham play now. I think they were playing there, and I was generally thinking about getting tickets because it was kind of like, all right, well, I've never seen Guns N' Roses. This is an opportunity. People are saying it's been pretty good so far, like show-wise. I think there have been shows. It was like in America. Like, let's do this kind of thing. And then it went on sale, and now they seem cheap. You know, I think they were just over £100, but there was a lot of money. And all I kept thinking was, that's just one ticket. So one ticket, and then I kept thinking about all the small gigs I like going to. The gig tickets that cost £10, £15, £20 at most, that kind of thing. And I was like, well, one ticket for Guns N' Roses, a band that you grew up and love and to a degree, but you really don't care if you see them, particularly when they appear to be over the hill to a certain degree. That's, you know, questionable, of course. But like, you really don't care that much about seeing them. Whereas you divide that by £20 tickets, that's 5 tickets, 5 times 20, it's £100. It's 5 bands who probably need the money more than Guns N' Roses do. Or if it's £10 tickets, 10 of them. And it was quite an eye-opening. It seems obvious, right? But it was eye-opening. And I remember discussing it with my wife and being like, are we just done? And we said, we won't swear off completely off the big gigs, because define big gig. What I mean by big gig is the top-end arena shows. So in my city, in London, I put that at the O2 and above, basically. Wembley Arena, which is the next one down, is still accessible to a degree. Bands there are playing at £50, £60. But now if you're playing the O2, you are upwards at least of 80. Some is cheaper if you're in the gods, the level 4 seats. But mostly they're going 100 plus and in the O2 arena. And that's my line now, basically. And it's not about affordability. It's about balance. And me going, is that worth it? And because who are the bands that are playing that arena? They're mostly bands I've either seen live loads and loads of times before, or I just don't want to see it again. That's what it is now. So it kind of works out quite nicely. And so I'm taking that and I'm looking at that and going, well, I can now invest that money that I would have spent on that into bands that I'm really into, that are up and coming. And I know it sounds like mean when I say that, like as if like these bands were on the last legs, but in some cases they really freaking are. And I'm not saying they don't deserve money as well, or they need it, or whatever. It's their right, they've earned this. And the fact that playing those arenas mean plenty of people are going to go. Me not going and me making this decision isn't going to harm most bands, because it just means that someone else will get that ticket. You know, it's not a thing. And I certainly don't judge anyone who wants to go to these shows. Why the hell would I? You go to what you want to do. This is just what I decided I wanted to do. But we never said we wouldn't, like, if there wasn't an opportunity. So, for example, if Metallica come back around, it's been many years since I've seen them. They're one of my all-time favourite bands. And me and Brendan, we discussed it and said, like, one last hurrah with them. One last go. And we're kind of waiting for them to come around, expecting them to do, like, an O2 show, that kind of size. And then, you know, like, yeah, all right, let's dump the money into it and make it one last hurrah with that kind of band. I wanted to do it with Nine Inch Nails, but again, ended up going, we saw them. I've seen them before. We saw them in a great position many, many, many years ago. Was that enough? And could we justify? Particularly as at the moment, there is a shit ton of great gigs being announced, and we're going to some great one-day festivals and things like that. So yeah, we decided not to even bother with it. And this will be exactly the same case with this gig as this Black Sabbath show. It's just, I just don't want to bother. I just don't want to. I just don't see it. I just don't have that feel. I just don't want to do it. I don't have the interest, the excitement. Outside of it being a one-day festival, to a degree, I love a one-dayer. I am a one-dayer fan, man. More of that, people. Just do one-day festivals that kick off at 12 o'clock, stick in 1 or 2 venues, and we just go for that. Your Incineration Fests, your Mangatas, all of that. I love those 1 days. And this is that inside a stadium, and it will be a lot of fun, but it's going to cost so much money that I cannot justify it when I look at all the other gigs and shows I want to go to. To put it in comparison, I spent £30, £15 each per ticket on 4 loan tickets for their album show in March this week. That was a gig tickets I bought, and I think that was disgracefully cheap. Like, I'm so excited for that. I'm absolutely loving what 4 loan are doing as well. And to put it in even greater context, I went to a gig this week. I went to the Grief Ritual album show gig in the Black Heart on Thursday, and with 3 other bands. It had Caligram, and we had Harrowed, and we had Worn Out coming over from Ireland, and I was so excited for this gig, really, really buzzing for it. And it still shocks me now that it wasn't sold out. It was solid turnout, but the Black Heart. If you know the Black Heart, you know what a busy Black Heart is, and you know how packed it can be. It was not this at all, which like, wow. I mean, and I guess, I don't know who to attribute that to. I don't think it's promotion on this side, because this gig was promoted heavily, but all around on social media and stuff like that. I know, obviously, it feels like it's just, it's a combination of things. Maybe it's the time of the year. There is a lot of gigs going on in February. It's money. Maybe people just don't have as much disposable funds as they used to. There's all these reasons, and I don't think it could be specifically narrowed down to one thing or one thing alone, but like it really, I hated that, because to me that's four of the best, really are. You've got Grief Ritual, who have released an absolutely killer album in Collapse. You have Caligram, legends of the scene. Harrowed, who I don't know loads about, but it's the second time I've seen them in recent time. I saw them with Wormrot and Mourn late last year, and they were excellent there too. And Worn Out Man, young Irish Cork band who absolutely kill it, delivering like a metalized, chaotic, hardcore style. They, alongside Grief Ritual, were the reason I was there. And it was a pleasure to meet them as well. Really nice people, but everybody's really nice at shows like this to a degree. There was this gig etiquette, right? We all know what it is, and we all know it's not quite as strong as it used to be. Pet etiquette still exists to a certain degree, but we've all experienced shitty behaviour at a gig, whether it's someone who just plows their way past you. It's one of the things that drives me nuts more than anything else, to just shitty behaviour, talking constantly for a show, all these things. I kind of had like a bad experience during Caligram, which kind of sucked. I wasn't really going to mention, but I think just because of the whole gig etiquette thing, I'd love to know what like sort of bad experiences or what worst experiences you've had at a gig. Because I've had some way worse than this, but this just kind of sucked and took a little bit of a shine off the show for me. Halfway through Caligram, a group of people, two dudes and two dudes, two women, came in and we were kind of standing like near the back, middleish near the back. Plenty of room around us, it was not packed enough. And they swarmed us, like, oh my God, like, they pressed up against me. Like, and there was no need for it because it wasn't that busy. I couldn't understand why. So I kind of just sort of like shuffled a bit. And then one of the dudes behind who was telling me put his elbow on my shoulder. So I sort of shook him off and I turned and he sort of looked at me, but he didn't apologise or anything. So I just carried on or whatever. Now it's in my head and I'm thinking, what the hell? And I've got this woman that's kind of pressed up against my side here. And there's too much space for this. I don't understand it. And I'm just starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm thinking, okay, what should I do? I'm like, okay, chill out. Then the two dudes behind me just start having a full-on conversation, a shouted conversation to each other. I've only got one working here. I've got a loop in because Black Heart is egregiously loud and I can hear them over it. But they're turning, and every time he turns, he's knocking my back. So I turned around and I said, like, guys, like, personal space. Like, give me a space. I'm a little bit annoyed now. Again, he just kind of looked at me and carried on. I thought in my head, I'm gonna be mean here. I'm gonna say something I'm gonna regret later. I'm gonna just be like, I'm gonna tell him to fuck off, basically. So instead, I tapped my wife and said, look, I'm moving and whatever. And she was happy to as well because like she'd been squashed on her side. But yeah, those people kind of they sucked. They sucked, and I couldn't understand why you'd be that obnoxious. But that is more expected these days than ever at a gig. It's life. People think they're the main character. They think only their shit matters. I could live with it almost bumping and pushing and side of things. We expect that obviously at a busy gig, but we weren't close enough or in any way not in a place where there wasn't plenty of room for people to sort of move back a little. And I do think you've got to be mindful of the whole personal space still thing at a gig. Remember, folks, unwanted touching is not something you should be doing, and a gig is no fucking excuse for it. People have got to try to get away with worse shit for that, so behave yourself. But it just took that little shine off the gig because it bothered me. I remember like I went downstairs and I was a bit like, like why? What happened there? A little bit het up about it. Calm down and then, enjoyed the rest of the Caligram and thoroughly enjoyed Grief Ritual afterwards. But that really sucked. And I've experienced way worse at bigger shows. Oh my God, way worse at bigger shows. And, certainly on a level others people have experienced. But yeah, I just wish people were a little bit nicer at gigs and not just thinking, and like, I'll never forget, like, we're going back like 20 odd years ago. Someone knocked me out of the way during Wednesday 13. Like literally pushed me out of the way and then stopped dead directly in front of me to stand in front of me. And I was so mad. I was like, what are you doing? And he turns to me and goes, it's expected at a gig. And I remember, it's always stuck with me. I was like, wow. And I'm not going to get into a fight with someone over something as small as this, as stupid as this. And obviously there's someone that is just a dickhead as well. But like, I think that actually people do think that. I think they still think it. It's expected at a gig. Oh, it's okay to behave this way at a gig. Oh, well, they're in a pit pushing and shoving each other. But no, we see pits. Think of the Decapitation show. I was looking down on a pit there, and I'm seeing people go down and being pulled up, and people are smiling and having fun. If they can do it in one of the more violent environments, why the hell are the people sort of standing back such melts about it? Now, I know sometimes it is just irritating, and sometimes people are ignorant on the other side of things. I'll use the underworld as a good example of this. The underworld, the stairs, people will stand on those stairs and flat out refuse to move for you to let you out. And it's like, I know you want to see, but you can't block the exit. So like, even I've had to be like, excuse me, tapping the shoulder, excuse me. And they go, and they'll move like the shoulder like that. And it's like, I'm a human being. I'm going to have to get past you. All right, I'm going to have to now push you out of the way. Not like shove them like that, but I'm going to have to, you know what I mean? I get all of that side of things. But like, particularly if you're coming behind a person who's maybe they're watching a show and you want to get past to them, a tap on the shoulder, a hand on the shoulder, just give them an indication. If you're the kind of person that goes, boom, like that, particularly when they're not expecting, you fucking suck. And I've dealt with people like that. We've all dealt with people like that. So what's your like worst experience at a gig? The Caligram one was not even close to that. It's just, you know, it just sucked. It just sucked, and there were sucky people for doing that. Maybe they didn't really know what they were doing, but like I said, twice I spoke to them, and they didn't seem to care. So that was enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they're coming in and then talking really loudly during a band's show, and Caligram are noisy buggers. You know that about them. So if I'm hearing it, my God, with a loop in as well. God, I'm not even deaf. I'm deaf in my right ear, which still, you know, confounds people. I always wonder, right? You ever see me at like a Black Heart show where I've got my loops in, or a loop in because it's so loud? Do you ever think, well, that guy kind of cares about his hearing because he's got a loop in on his left ear, but he's covered his right ear and thought that looked weird? It doesn't work. It's literally could be just folded over skin. It'd look weird, obviously, and I'll, you know, rest my glasses on it, but it simply doesn't work. I've been deaf on my right ear since birth, since birth. Well, there's been some argument with my mum over that debate and stuff like that due to doctor stuff back in Ireland back in the day. But yeah, I'm deaf on my right ear, so if you ever think, God, that looks weird, my throat's beginning to hurt now. So I'm not going to go much longer. I've already gone quite a while. But yeah, worst thing you've experienced at a gig. I'm trying to think of something that I've definitely experienced worse. Another one back in the day, that Wednesday 13 one actually was one of them, including the fact I was at a Wednesday 13 gig. No shade on Wednesday 13, I'm just not that big of a fan. And but that was back then when I used to go to a lot more shows just because. I went to a Berserker gig way back in the day at the Underworld, and it was so bad that I think we watched 2 or 3 songs, and I went to go to the toilet, and I come back, and Lou was like, oh my fucking God, he's just trying to fight the security guard. And we were like, yeah, we're done. This is bad. We are done. What else? Oh, In Flames, some big, massive dude was basically doing that, like literally doing that to get through a crowd. Anyway, he knocked into me and a friend, and sometimes, you know, I'm hot-headed, just like everybody else. I pushed him in the back. And I always remember he turned around and did this whole, like, you kind of thing, and then carried on. I remember standing and be like, the fuck was that? But yeah, that guy was a melt. Stuff like that. But I remember, I've done like a dick thing. I always remember this. I went to Dragon Force way back in the day. I'm talking about like early noughties, way back in the day. And I drank too much too fast. And it was at the Astoria. Now, if you remember the Astoria, the toilets were on either side. I think if you were facing the stage, the women's were on the left and the men's were on the right. And I was on the left-hand side, and I suddenly felt like I was going to chunder. I was going to be sick, and I felt it growing. And I needed to get to those toilets, and it was a busy Astoria. And it was one of those, it's going to happen, and I'm not throwing up all over the Astoria floor. So I basically had to blast my way through that fucking crowd. I'm so sorry to those people, but it was better that or me chucking up all over the floor, which would have caused chaos for the gig, or throwing up all over you. It's the last thing you ever wanted to do. Yeah, I've gone one off on a tangent here. But yeah, so the Sabbath show, going all the way back to that, I think it's going to be unique and it's going to be special. And based off what I've read, I suspect it might be the last public appearance of Ozzy, you know, that we'll ever get that we'll ever get to see, and that's going to suck. Have you ever? I mean, I've seen Ozzy play before. Thankfully, I have, which is a joy. I've seen Sabbath play before as well, which I'm really pleased about too. You know, so I can leave it in the memories. You know, I'll see the pictures. I'll no doubt see the videos when it happens. But I'm happy enough to leave it in the memories. But if you are going, I hope you have a really great time. You will, and you know, just have fun, have a drink, and just pay tribute and toast to, well, a legend of our scene. Okay, we're at 40 minutes, coming up to 40 minutes. I'm kind of on a bit of a roll, so I'm going to continue with this last little thing I wanted to talk about. The review process. Now, I wanted to talk to you about how I review. What's the review process? How do I write an album or an EP review, a horror review, a game review, and so on? Now, there's nothing too complex about this. The complexities that do exist are more on the music side of things. Let me just break each one down individually. The games, the brains, and their head banging. Those three specific things. So a game. They're the hardest thing to write, I find personally. Mainly because I often, majority of the time, need to 100% and complete a game. Not 100% is the wrong word. Complete a game, particularly if it's a story-driven game. I find the idea of writing a review where I don't know the ending to, say, an RPG or like a narrative game, absurd. I am one of those. I do agree with the fact that you do kind of need to write, particularly because if you want to talk about a story, and you should be talking about a story in a video game review, you're probably going to have to play it to the end. Obviously, it doesn't apply with certain other things. You're doing a racing game. I think you just need to get to a certain point where you've got a feel and a vibe and potentially put enough hours in to really give it a fair hearing. Say with a fighting game and stuff like that. So, because obviously that, when you've got a complete lot of games, you can't do that many. I don't have enough time to play all the games in the world, particularly the huge ones, so sometimes it just takes a lot longer to write a review. And I won't write it in bits and bobs. I won't. I'll write it when I'm done with the game. I kind of want to do it that way. I'll play it to a point and think, right, I can write a review for this now. And that will be simply it. I'll basically use clips sometimes to trigger memories if I'm not too sure about a certain thing. Get the details, the developer details, publisher online, and then just kind of go with it. There's nothing complex about a game review. It's just time. The same with horror. It's probably the easiest reviews I write. I can write from a specific different ways for horror. I can write long form or I can write in short form. It all depends on the movie itself and how interesting it is. I often try not to write from a specific personal point of view with horror, but sometimes it does sneak in here and there. Obviously, I need to watch the film fully. There is no question about that. There is no, I am finishing this early and I don't want to watch it. It is a full form, watch the entire fucking thing, beginning to end, even if it is terrible. Because, I think I said this before, the last 2 minutes of a movie, well, can't redeem a bad movie, but sometimes would offer you something entertaining enough and certainly give me encouragement to write a bit more. I don't use like stuff from the internet. Aside from maybe cast lists, directors and writers, for the most part, I'm paying attention. I pick a lot of that stuff up. But if I want to kind of go, like someone's like start a horror review by basically saying this is the movie, written and directed by so-and-so and starring so-and-so and so-and-so. I'll get that information off IMDb, but I won't go to the trivia sections. I won't use elements like that because I'm always worried that might accidentally inform. And if I read a bit of trivia that is a fun fact about a particular scene, it might colour my view in that scene. Like, for example, if I thought the scene was poor, but I read a fun fact about it, I'm like, oh, well, that makes it a little bit better. No, I don't want anything like that coloured. I don't really read other reviews either at all. I normally do that after I've written a review. Normally after I publish it as well, because then I like to see how in tune what I've written is with someone else's point of view. I do quite enjoy that, and there are a number of great writers out there doing great stuff on other sites for the horror side of things as well. But aside from that, it's very simple. I don't particularly have a formula. Like, I don't have I'll write about this part, this part, this part. It's all about flow, and sometimes it comes really easy to me, and I will knock out 600, 700, 800 words in quick succession, particularly if I'm feeling passionate about it. Subspecies was that. You know, if you look at the subspecies reviews that are going on a site at the moment and in video form over the next couple of weeks, you'll see how I started off with a fairly shortish review for subspecies 1, but by the end I am extending them because I got more and more passion about it, more and more interested about like what I was writing about and the characters and getting to know them better. So I was having a lot more fun writing horror reviews. I often find horror reviews where I do find I have a lot of fun, particularly when I get to be quite imaginative. Sometimes it's not easy, you know, when you've watched a fairly bland found footage horror movie, which I did quite recently, a really bad found footage horror movie, I know I'm going to write about it, but I'm envisioning no more than 500 at max, because aside from just telling you how bad it is, it's such a basic story with such little going on that it's going to be hard to elect much passion or interest from me. I don't find those difficult. The extent or lengthy. In fact, horror movie reviews can be some of the shortest, quickest reviews I write, particularly if I get in the zone. The longest ones, of course, are music reviews. Obviously, that shouldn't be surprised, but obviously it's dependent upon what kind of album I'm listening to, what style it is, length, all of that. There's so many different factors. You give me a double album, a progressive metal or rock double album that's coming in about an hour and a half overall, and is based upon a concept that's quite vast and unique. I am going to have a long time writing this review. You give me a brutal death metal album that is 10 tracks long, about 35 minutes, and is just all the way through, I can knock that out quite quickly. It all really depends. And the same with EPs, obviously. Although the crux of the detail might still take a little bit of time, and certainly understanding and writing about the music when it's like 4 or 5 tracks, obviously, and I'm doing a kind of like a more in-depth look at each track, I don't have that much to write compared to obviously a double the size album. So here's the process, so to speak. I'm going to take this is every album follows that same process. I will write notes, the body of review, words, things that will trigger me and build. I see it almost like Spidergraph, where I've written a word or a sentence and it's the start of what will be growing off it, the bulk of a review. And I'll do that while listening to an album for the first time, a release for the first time, feelings, what it says to me, or I'll pick up on this specific riff. I'll pick up on this. Sometimes, I've got so good at doing this, in fact, that sometimes I've found that like half the review or 3/4 of the review is written by that first listen. Now, I know I never publish after a 1 listen review because during that 1 listen, I'll have been distracted. Something will happen. Maybe I'll be walking around. Maybe I'll be doing it on the move. There is stuff I will not pick up. Particularly if I found something I don't like, I really then want to make sure I'm sure about this specific thing. Or I found something that made me go, oh my God, that was so good. That I want to make sure that feeling is elected again and again and again and again. And what that kind of thing. Sometimes it'll be tracks that get played multiple times rather than the whole thing. So for example, if I hear let's say it's a pop punk track that is by the numbers, verse, chorus, poppy peppy, here's a nice little sing along in the chorus, it's by the numbers, and I like it. But I got nothing else really to think or say beyond that. That's all I can elect. I won't really give that much more time, but maybe there's a track that follows it that's got a unique value, and maybe I can then roll the 2 into that. You'll see that how I write sometimes, where some tracks will get a lot more detail, while others I'll gloss over. It's not necessarily a bad track, but maybe it's not got my attention in the same way. So the Spidergraph all breaks off, all these different things. Sometimes it can be really, really basic, and I'm not really writing much aside from 1 words. And even later, sometimes it's happened where I've done all of this, but then I've had to walk away from it for a while, maybe for a day or 2, and I come back and I look and I'm like, the fuck did I write here? And I have to basically start it again. That can be frustrating. It's why I kind of try and stick to more half sentences, more descriptive, like rather than individual words, more descriptive of how I'm feeling. I can grow from that rather than going like, what use would be writing the word heavy? Fucking use is that to me? That would what I was doing that's no use to me now. That just tells me what I'm listening to heavy metal. No freaking shit. It's a heavy album. No shit. I need more than that these days. But then I'll build upon that, and the process gets a little bit deeper, and I'll start identifying things. Obviously, with a lot of these, majority of these, I get press releases as well. I'm iffy about reading too much into these. Now, what I will often do is take the bulk part at the start, which is normally the release date, the label, and I will just simply copy and paste at the start of the review. It's normally something like, heavy metal band, Male Like Gold. I'm just reading off the box down there. A heavy metal band, Male Like Gold, released a brand new album, Product Care, on the 18th of March 2025 via blah 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 label. That's my, that kind of thing. Sometimes there might be a little bit of a descriptor as well, but I never put or use any sort of, or try not to use any kind of description of the music, because that is a press release, and that's fine if you're putting a news story up, but I don't want it to seem like informed. Now, I always bold this stuff and put it above the band picture to inform that this is not part of the review. It's a separate thing. The review starts picture down, that kind of thing. I think you know my style, so I think it perfectly works fine. Then you kind of hear my words, and that's where things get interesting. Sometimes I'll add a quote. If it's a concept album, for example, and the band have put a quote out, I will put that after the picture, and it'll be a quote. It'll be in the big red quote box to attribute that to the band. Then you get my words, and that's how that process goes. I do not write directly to WordPress, the website. I write on Word first. Through that, I can utilize. Now, I've had issues with grammar in the past. I think it's a bit of an issue where sometimes I'll read as fast as I write and talk. And sometimes because of that, particularly when there's words that are kind of like flowing together, I'll miss one that I've missed here. I'll miss one here and so on, that kind of thing. So now what I utilize is the talkback function of Word. It's an AI voice. It's not always great for pronunciations, of course, like that. But what it's doing is actually picking up a lot of grammatical errors that I make, maybe on the first sort of full write, and then I'm able to go and correct it. Or hearing it talk, I'll hear a sentence out loud and think, I'm not too sure I like that. I'm going to reword that. Or I'm hearing myself use the same word too many times, that kind of thing. I use it for that. It's really useful because I used to just read it back myself and I'd still post it and then later see I made an error and I'd be like, oh, for goodness sake, even though I'd read it back myself because I'm reading it almost as I write. Some albums, the drafts take time. It can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 listens, depending upon what it is. Depending on how much I love it, sometimes it is within 1 or 2. It really does depend upon the style. Depends how passionate I can get from it. Sometimes I've finished like a review. I've finished a review and it'll be like, oh, it's like 200 words. Oh my God, because it's a basic bitch death metal album. And while I've enjoyed it, I enjoy most things, I need more. I'm struggling to come up with more here and stuff like that. So I have to spend more time with that album and push myself and come up with more imaginative ways. Other times, honestly, it fucking flows. And before I know it, on my second and third listen, I'm like 900, 1,000 words in. And I've just, every track's getting a fucking paragraph. I have to go back and edit it and cut it back because I've gone too far. But it is the longest process. But I have become really adept at doing this. Like, I know how I do it. I know how to focus. I will set myself on my calendar and I'll be like, right, it'll be in my planner and it'll be write music reviews. That's the title for the task. And that will be, say, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. So I've got a 4-hour block. And in that I will add, let's say I want to add 4 albums. Now, obviously, I'm not going to write reviews for 4 albums in 4 hours. That's simply impossible. But what it is, these are 4 albums that I'm going to focus on in that period. And they will all get at least 1 play, maybe 2 if I'm lucky, and they would all, where I'm skipping a few tracks, and I will get stuff written up for each. And I'll do that on Word. And I'll save that document, and that will be the piece that works on it. And that's how the process works. I always have multiple reviews on the go at once. You might say, well, that's a bit unfair. Like, how are you focusing on one? I am focusing on one, because when it comes to focusing on that one, I focus on that one. I'm not playing 2 at the same time. I've not got 2 files open, but I'm writing several at the same time. It's just, I for example, I can't do 3 or 4 brutal death metal albums in a row. I'm a human freaking being. It's not fair in that 4th band. By the time I get that 4th band, they're going to be judged harshly because it's kind of the same fucking thing. So I need to break it up. And I'll always try and make the albums that I'm focusing on in a period either have variations. Not too extreme, but enough variations where I can go, all right, this one's a BDM record. This one's a black metal record. This one is a rock record. Here's some pop punk, like that kind of thing. And I often will like to throw in an EP as well, because that sometimes refreshes my palette, because they can be quite short and simple to write. That's the process. There's nothing really complex about it. It can vary in length, and for the most part, I can do them all pretty succinctly and neatly. There are times where it takes me a little bit too long, and there have been occasional times where I've abandoned something halfway through. Normally, if I don't like it. That's rare these days. I can always find positives in everything, but the rule is we don't put negativity on the music side of things. So if we don't like what you're writing, and I'm leaning to what I can see my words are like, oh, this is bad, or I'm using words like rubbish and just not likable, or this and that sort of thing, I'll just delete it. I'm not going to cover you, basically. That's the punishment for making bad music, that kind of thing. Singles are a lot simpler. I will single slam. Here's the track. Normally I'll put the video on if I've got it, and I'll watch and listen, and I'll start writing. My goal is, with a single slam track, 2 lines minimum, 4 lines maximum. In Word, I'm saying. And for the most part, that sticks. Sometimes it goes over more than under. I never write anything less than 2 lines. But basically, that's what I'm trying to do. It's a single slam. It's a snippy, quick, speedy kind of process. And that's all I'm like. So it's easy for me to write from the first listen. Sometimes, depending on the track, though, it does take multiple listens. Particularly if I'll write something and I'll be like, well, I've written a line. I need a bit more than that, so I'll need a bit more listens and so on and so forth. It's again a process that I've got used to and found a way around. Obviously, there's other things that require, obviously, other reviews that we write and stuff like that. TV series reviews, like the online stuff, like that kind of thing. I treat them like a horror review, but with that, I sometimes get content from the episodes as I go through, just writing little bits here and there to remind myself more than anything else. But I tend to do TV series reviews from an overarching perspective because, of course, we've got the video reviews. I don't need to do like in-depth individual episode reviews for that kind of thing. Book reviews, that's read once and then basically skim a second time if I want specific things. What else? Well, interviews are, they're sent back to me. I'm just copy and pasting them in, making the edits, adding the stuff. What else do I write review-wise? I'm drawing a bit of a blank here. What else? Definitive rankings, things like that. It's all copy and paste from content that's written elsewhere. Yeah, it's really simple like that. I'll get into video stuff, I guess, another time, but that's basically the written review process. You can see, it's all pretty straightforward, but then it is for me. I've been doing this a long, long time. And even now, like, I'm going to get off this video. I'm going to finish this video now, and I'm going to get in front of the computer once I've taken a little bit more drugs. And I'm going to get in front of the computer, and I'm going to start editing a set of reviews that I wrote the other day. Because actually, that's what I should say. The last part, of course, is taking that from Word and putting it into the site. And that's my opportunity to correct any small little things. As I copy and paste the Word document into WordPress, my file, my created page, and the post that's going to go up. Then I'll let it play as I read it back on the screen. And that's basically really helping me get over any particular spelling mistakes, grammatical errors and things like that, because as well as hearing his monotone voice speak, I'm also reading it, but at the same time I'm adding pictures and I'm adding links and I'm doing all the SEO stuff and all of that stuff. That's the last part. On a good day, on a pretty straightforward day, 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for a review. So 4 can take me an hour, sometimes less, depending upon how quickly I've been able to get everything together. For the most part, again, it's a very monotonous, boring part of it. It's probably the part I like the least, but I'll put a film on, I'll put some music on. At the moment, I'm watching old Futurama episodes, so I'm going to put that on, and I'm going to just work away. And that's where I'm going to end this video. It's the longest one yet. It's the longest one yet, and I've got to get it up. So, yeah, hopefully I haven't rambled and, too much, but I think it's a pretty good episode, right? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.